Hello, this is Jane Talbot, and I am just swerving by to update you about my final preparations for my first running adventure, which will take place on Sunday the 9th of June in Nuneaton. It's the West Midlands Masters Track and Field Championships, and I'm going to attempt, without the aid of a safety net, to run the 400 and 800 metres. And to support that adventure, I have been training since the 1st of January, and I have been broadly following an online training programme with the support of Richard Lappin, who's one of the coaches at CrossFit Causeway. Now, the only thing that I hadn't really done was worn spikes, mastered how to run on a track, and mastered how to set up blocks and get out of them. That's what I did this week on Tuesday. It's been a very big week in the Old Dog New Tricks Adventure household. So Tuesday lunchtime, I went along to CrossFit Causeway and had a play. That's what it felt like on the block. There was about a 45-minute session, and I was basically learning how to fall forwards. Now, the first couple of times when I got out of the blocks, I basically stood up. You have a massive instinct to stop yourself falling, but you literally stop in your tracks if you do that. So you have to learn to trust your body and trust that the push will give you sufficient momentum to go forwards rather than downwards. You've got to get the angle right. There's a lot of tension in your body, and you lean forward and your shoulders take an incredible amount of load. I found that out because I was woken up on Tuesday night with really aching shoulders, and they're still sore at the moment. But by the end of that session, I was really enjoying it, and I kind of had a better feeling proprioceptively for where my body was in space and what my angle of takeoff was like. So that's improving for me, because I really didn't have a strong sense of how I was holding my body and what was going on, either when I was running or when I was trying to get out of the blocks. So that's a starting point for me, and I can now practice on those blocks before my first race. On Tuesday night, I went over to Antrim, to the forum where the Ballymena and Antrim Athletics Club meet. And as I said in my last post, I was a little bit nervous because the track brings up all sorts of memories. And when I got to the track, I started to feel the same feelings, a little bit anxious. It was overrun with young people, little people having a brilliant time. And I had been told to meet one of their young athletes. When I say young, she'd be probably in her late teens, early 20s. A young woman, a 400 and 800 metre runner called Emma. And Emma was looking out for me, and really I shouldn't have been frightened at all. Emma looked after me and showed me the ropes with two other younger athletes, Katie and Sophie. So I went out for a 1 mile warm-up run. Everything okay at this stage? I thought I won't chat too much just in case I use up all my energy just in the warm-up alone. I was very frightened. And then we did some warm-up drills. Again, my modern language training helped me out. So when you learn a foreign language and you go and live in a foreign country, you become very good at observing and knowing, what the rules are, how to fit in. So I was watching Katie and Sophie. They were probably thinking, what is that woman doing? I was watching them very carefully and then copying what they did for the warm-up, because I think they might have thought I knew what to do. I didn't know what to do. And then I owned up, and then they showed me exactly what to do. And then at about 7:30, all the middle distance athletes who were going to train for that session met on the track, and Pauline, the middle distance coach, got us going. So we did some more warm-up drills, things I'd never done before, using a ladder, some kind of plyometric jumping, everything to kind of get the fast twitch muscle fibres, however many of them I actually have, I don't know, warmed up. And then we did a kind of pyramid session. So then we put our spikes on. So this is the very first time I'd worn my spikes, and I was very frightened indeed, because I thought, oh, there must be a real skill to this. And I'm sure all my speed will suddenly disappear and I will literally, again, stop in my tracks. But I shouldn't have been afraid, because as soon as I stepped onto the track in my spikes, it felt really bouncy and made my legs feel really light and elastic. So we did 400 metres followed by 4 minutes rest, then 350 metres followed by maybe 3.5 minutes rest, then 300, then 250, and so on. I stopped at 250 on Pauline's advice, because if you've never run in spikes before, it can be very, very hard on the calves. Now, I have to say, normally when I go out for a run, when I'm doing my sprint sessions, there is no space for thinking. I am totally focused on pushing myself and keeping consistent in the absence of anybody else to push me along. Well, this was a completely different experience, because I was being pulled along by the others. Yes, I was at the back. And it was, I suppose, quite interesting to see how I responded to being right at the back. I actually felt completely comfortable, and I felt myself being pulled along by the rest of the group, and I had the immediate insight, aha, it's probably a good idea to train with other people, because it seems to have a different effect on the way I experience running. And because I was being pulled along, I could have a think. And I was basically noticing how much my body was enjoying the experience of running on the track, and that I felt really comfortable in the spikes, and that my core felt really strong, and some of the hard work, I think, had been paying off. And I had a little chuckle to myself, because for me, running behind those runners, they were mostly quite a lot younger than me. They looked like gazelles. And I had the experience of myself of being like a bison, you know, good for the stampede, but not quite enough to keep up with the gazelles. I really enjoyed that session, and I have to say that I was very well looked after. And, you know, I had the opportunity to train with everybody else, but also I was, you know, well advised as to how to make the most out of the session and not to injure myself. I think as a result of that session, I don't think, I know, I'm going back next Tuesday and I'm going to join that club. I just felt everyone was so welcoming and friendly and supportive. And whilst obviously I was right at the back during the actual interval itself, it was social. In the minutes between each repetition, people chatted. I loved it. I really loved it. And I'm pleased to report that the next day my calves were fine. So Pauline stopped me just at the right time. So I suppose what's interesting to me is a lot of people say after each adventure, so after the musical theatre adventure, people say, well, okay, so you can stop singing now. Well, no, why would I stop singing when I really loved the adventure? I'm carrying on and doing the diploma. Just like the 400 and 800 metre run and running, people are saying to me, well, you'll be relieved when that's over. Why would I be relieved? I'm really enjoying it. And I think one of the great things about joining an athletics club is there's opportunity for play and experimentation. I'm not sure whether 400 and 800 metres are my distance. And I also realise that 5 months of training at that distance might not help me do myself justice on the track. There's plenty of time. That's something I'm learning from my adventures. I might be well into my 50s, but there's still plenty of time. See you soon.